and welcome to Americans Learn. My name is Lauren, and today I'm looking at a Blue Jay video. It's been a minute since I've looked at a Blue Jay video, so I'm back. This is historic duels that put the Wild West to shame. So let's get a little bit violent and check out some of these crazy duels. Let's go.
Petty disputes are like taxes. They hit you when you least expect it and usually lead to some sort of criminal threat. Unlike today, where death threats can be made from the safety of your couch, the people of the past didn't have the luxury of the internet to keep their murderous desires at bay. Instead,
I think that picture I've seen before, but I saw that picture that he was using there.
The people of the past...
This one as a visual aid for this joke about like the causes of World War One. Like if World War One was a bar fight, I think. I don't know.
The luxury of the internet
familiar.
to keep their murderous desires at bay. Instead, they resorted to a good old-fashioned duel to settle their differences. This glorious practice sent a strong message that no matter how big or small, any problem can be solved honorably with a little elbow grease and murder. But while dueling is no longer available today, don't you worry, champ, we have our alternatives. Hey, so actually, I said I didn't want any pickles. Ratio. What's that gonna do? Ow. But for some, a traditional duel can only bring so much excitement. You know how getting stabbed and shot at gets dull after a while. So today, we're gonna explore the stories of those who participated in some of the wackier duels in history.
There are a couple of times, I know about a couple of duels back in the, 1400s or something, where it's like, they would, again, getting a duel sanctioned could be tricky, but there was at least one where they had to fight a dog. Like the person who, like the dog basically accused someone of killing their master by every time they saw this person just like barking and like trying to bite them. And then their owner turns up dead. The two humans had a fight. So like they would put like the human who has to fight the dog in a hole with a sword. And then the dog just comes up with whatever the dog just has their own, tooth and claws, obviously, and then whoever wins. But like I don't know if we're gonna hear about any of these dog duels, but there was a couple of times that kind of thing happened where they had to fight an animal, because the person that was that they would have thought was dead.
It's well known that the French's two greatest contributions to the world are drinking wine with your pinky out and cartoony murder stories, such as the hot-headed man who headed the headhunt after beheading a head of state while heedlessly spearheading his headless demise. But reigns of terror aside, the French are legendary for their use of duels to settle their disagreements. Everything from political differences to whose mustache best represents a kick-ass roller coaster. So when Monsieur de Grandpré and Monsieur de Pique found out they had both been seeing the same woman, a duel was short to follow. The year is 1808, and the renowned dancer at the Paris Opera, Mademoiselle Tervite, was dating Grandpré, but began to see Le Pique on the side for a little extra baguette. Both men laid claim to the woman, because it's the 1800s and before Beyonce, you could still do that kind of thing, agreeing to a duel to win her heart. But given the grand nature of the prize, so too must the duel itself be elevated. Literally. Oh, if it is the woman you want, Monsieur de Pique, a duel you must have. May the 3rd, the crack of dawn, we duel. You're on, Monsieur... Oh putain, I have a balloon race that day. We will make it work. It was decided that the only way to settle the dispute was with a duel in gas balloons. Why must the men fight to the death thousands of feet above Paris? No clue. Maybe they thought the Fire Nation had the right idea. But if anything, we can thank the French for pioneering the steampunk genre. The idea...
I mean, sure. All right. Let's do it in a balloon. I guess, if you're doing something dumb, you might as well do something historically dumb, huh?
Was to take a month to build identical gas balloons, ascend into the air, and take turns firing at each other's balloons with a blunderbuss.
I will say though, like one of the they did often have to make the duels for a lot later, because the idea was you give them time to cool off, and maybe we don't actually want to fight a duel.
Predecessor to the modern shotgun. On May the 3rd, 1808, as crowds gathered for what they thought was a balloon race, both men ascended in their balloons with their seconds who were to act as co-pilots. Traditionally, the role of a second is to mediate the duel, as well as attempt to defuse the situation entirely to avoid bloodshed. In this case, on top of their usual duties, the seconds were literally prepared to die if their guy lost. That or maybe they misinterpreted the term wingman. Say what you will about the French, but they always got their homies' backs.
Grandpré, look around. It's so peaceful up here. Kinda makes your whole love triangle problem seem kinda small, huh? Yeah. You know what? You're right.
Hey!
What?
I think I want to go down!
You dare call me a clown?
No, I said I want to go down!
No, you're going down!
Fuck!
Dang.
My home! Marie! Marie, are you okay?
Well, at least my honor is restored.
Dear God, there are body parts everywhere!
At about half a mile
Yikes.
up, a signal was given and the duel commenced. Lepic fired first and miraculously missed the giant balloon. Grompré followed with his shot, which hit its mark, sending
Blunderbusses weren't particularly known for their accuracy either. Like, from what I remember about blunderbusses, they were not super accurate.
Lepic and the second plummeting to the ground to were then, quote, dashed to pieces on a housetop. That's the quote. A fitting end, because anyone with aim that bad is bound to be a nuisance at urinals and thus deserves to die. It should be noted that the authenticity of the story is a little questionable. The earliest record of the story that I could find was in a British...
Also, that guy on the top doesn't have a blunderbuss. These two guys both have pistols. Those aren't blunderbusses.
Newspaper.
Right? Those look like pistols. I was thinking blunderbusses were much bigger. Blunderbuss. Images. Yeah, that's a little bit. That's big. He's like, oh, no, some of these look more pistol-y. Okay, so it could have been either way. Some of them look a little bit longer and some of them look a little bit smaller. I'm not going to do like a huge amount of research into it, honestly.
A few months after the fact. It's also mentioned in a book by a proclaimed authority on duels. I even went as far as to ask a duelist historian about it, who said while he doesn't necessarily doubt it to be true, he has no reason to be certain it isn't apocryphal. So this story gets filed under, it may not have happened, but the world's more fun believing it did.
Alright. The main, Blue Jay's preferred reality, the balloon duel. There's a Portal 3, a season 4 of Daredevil. Lightning Thief directed by Peter Jackson might have been good. Oh, the Seahawks ran the ball. Fuck yeah! Yeah! Okay, that's my personal belief too now. And the ink. Okay, I like his preferred reality, honestly. I'm absconding with it. It's my preferred reality too.
So anyway, whether or not Grompré actually ended up with Tirvit is unknown, but I like to imagine he realized that if he should love anyone, is the one willing to put his life on the line so that his bro can get laid. So what could possibly follow up Balloon Tower Defense France Edition? That's right, the French again. Back during the French Restoration, there existed a lot of tension between the former soldiers of Napoleon's army and the bright and shiny Royal Guard. And considering the French tend to be quite honest and direct with their thoughts, quarrels are rather expected. Which shouldn't be too surprising, it's such a problem that they literally developed a career dedicated to silence. One such quarrel occurred when Colonel Babier Dufay trod on the toes of the young Captain Raoul de Vere of the Royal Guard and insulted his cockade. Get your mind out of the gutter, it's a hat ribbon. No. But apparently in 19th century France, mocking a glorified knot was akin to spitting on an orphan, because Raoul was so insulted that only blood could remedy such a dishonor. He challenged Dufay to a duel, offering up the rapier, sword, or pistol as the weapon of choice, whichever Dufay preferred. This surprised the colonel, who was all like, oh shit, so you've mastered all these? To which Raoul responded, no, I'm 18. Seeing as how Dufay wasn't a fan of Fortnite, he wasn't all that interested in murdering children that day. But as he began to walk away, Raoul placed his hand on the colonel's cheek, which sounds really touching at first, until he realized that's just fancy olden talk for giving him the old airplane treatment. And thus, a duel with rapiers commenced. They faced off and—
hey, I'm gonna touch you. Hey, fight me. Okay, bitch.
Street, where the more experienced Dufay proceeded to easily disarm Raoul 4 times. Okay, stop. No, down. Put it down, boy. This is pathetic. I'm not an assassin.
You have not bested me yet, good sir.
Okay, fine.
Super have.
On a fight to the death?
You insulted my cockade!
Jesus Christ. Okay, let's make things interesting. Apparently, 4 consecutive disarms wasn't enough to solidify a victor, so Dufay proposed that they should, and I'm not making this up, tie their left arms together, enter the back of a coach, and stab each other to death with daggers. Because you know what they say, if you can't win with a sword 4 times, try Fast and Furious with knives. This was thought to be the perfect solution, as it would ensure no one could escape. So the seconds took over for the carriage driver and began driving their pre-rounded 2 laps around the Place de Carousel. And if there's anyone I feel most sorry for, it's them.
Yeah.
So great. Wait till you see my spin move. I made this move myself.
That's difficult. I've done like similar what is the word I'm looking for? Not the word is similar drills like that before, where you have like the dowel rod, like it's a big knife, and you have to hold each other's hands and then block or try and stab, thrust. Like, anyway, it's an interesting drill to do, but to try and do that IRL with real sharp knives, no thanks.
Not the cocaine! Rest now.
So did Raoul finally catch his break, redeeming his honor solely by the insult to his cockade and numerous disarmaments?
No.
No. No, the lad was very dead. Dufay also appeared to be dead at first, having been stabbed 4 times in the chest, but he ultimately recovered from his wounds. Some accounts claim that he later died from his injuries, but the majority of the sources I consulted state otherwise. Plus, as we all know, it takes 37 stabs in the chest to kill a man. So if we learned any valuable
37.
lessons from this encounter,
That's the number that kills people.
Moving on from France, we have a story that takes place on the other side of the English Channel. On a cold winter's evening in 1765, the 2 cousins, neighbors, and friends, Lord William Byron and William Shaworth, were enjoying their weekly dinner at the Star and Garter Tavern in London. It started off pleasant enough, just 2 blokes enjoying a chinwag, having a laugh, British things. But as the wine continued to run, so too did their mouths. A conversation began on the proper way to hang birds after they were shot, which soon transitioned into whose estate held the most game birds. But little did they know, they were both Redditors at heart, and what began as some harmless boasting rapidly escalated as neither side would back down. You see, Byron, at my estate, we roll the wings up like crescent rolls and hang the bird from the claws. Well, it only makes sense coming from an estate like yours. What do you mean by that? Oh, only just that you obviously lack proper experience with an estate so devoid of game birds. This coming from the bloke with only 20 pheasants on his estate. 29? And please, you don't have more than a handful of quail in your brush.
Good sir, my estate is brimming with quail, along with dozens upon dozens of red-legged partridges. You have as many partridges as you have admirers, you wazzock.
Woo! I mean, I will say I'm enjoying the banter here. I'm assuming that Blue Jay invented all of it wholesale, and I would like to take my hat off to him, but I'm not wearing a hat. But well done, I bow to you, sir. It's good repartee.
Meanwhile, I've got 18 capercaillie roaming my backyard. I've got 17 ostriches. Yes, 17 ostriches that run circles around your pathetic capercaillie. 14 pterodactyls! My estate has 14 pterodactyls flying leagues above your glorified giraffe chickens!
Alright, how did everything turn out tonight?
Wonderful. Say, could you show us to a room?
The argument escalated to the point where they drew their swords and asked the waiter to show them to an empty room. The waiter returned after hearing a lot of commotion to find Shaworth gravely injured, with Byron's sword driven firmly through his gut, proving once and for all that Lord William Byron had the most birds. Or something like that. Shaworth lived for a full day before he died, during which he claimed that he only regretted that the room that they dueled in was so dimly lit, and thus caused his defeat. Basically the equivalent of saying, I lost because he had a good gaming chair. After his cousin's death, William Byron was put on trial for murder before the House of Lords, during which they asked him, are you guilty of the felony of murder? To which he responded, nah fam. And so they found him guilty of manslaughter instead. While normally you expect people to regret their stupid decisions, Byron proudly mounted the sword that slew his friend in his bedchamber.
Really?
And later would earn the nickname the Wicked Lord. He ultimately got off with just a small fine, showing that as long as the honor of bird lovers is at stake, and you happen to be a lord, you absolutely can put a price on human life. Oh, hey Life Lesson Leopard, what wisdom do you have for us today? Dwell not on the grievances past, for that which festers blooms with thorns, and those whose minds dwell to the last shall find their doom, this leopard warns. Okay.
So don't think about it anymore. I didn't, fine, whatever, he's dead now, but that was in the past. We can't worry about it anymore. It'll just make you worried and give you wrinkles.
What, you want money? You want to keep those wings? Jesus, okay, here. I could have taken them. What was that? 10 out of 10 stars.
Yikes. Okay, interesting. Yeah, duels, wild. I know more about medieval type duels at the moment. That is the stuff that I learned the most about. And more, honestly, about the Italian version of them. I also know that, like, a little bit about American dueling. But that was much later than the medieval dueling, obviously. That was what, all right, historical, they were kind of wild. The balloons one. I also live in the world where the balloons one definitely happened. He didn't talk about any of the dogs. There were several duels that had the dogs in them, and the dogs didn't always lose. So there's that. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. It's been a minute since I've done a Blue Jay video. This one wasn't quite as psychotic as some of his later ones have gotten. But it was still fun. I enjoy his brand of chaos. And like I said, I mean, his scripts are great, and I really appreciated the banter between Byron and whatever his dead friend's name was. I thought that was really well done. And partly that's because I'm reading, like, it's resonating with me, especially at the moment, because I am doing, the show that I'm doing is The Importance of Being Earnest. So it's a wild show. And it just kind of felt very reminiscent of some scenes in this particular play. So I appreciated that a lot. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and let me know what I should look at next. Don't forget to give the video a big thumbs up, and I will see you in the next one.